name is John Brandt. I design music studios worldwide, both big and small, large budget and small budget. I'd like to introduce you to my design philosophy and design technique. I've been in the music business for 40 years. I've been on both sides of the glass, mostly the other side of the glass, engineering, producing, doing technical work, installing consoles and equipment, speakers, speaker systems, treatment. In the technical side, I was involved in all the way from full construction of studios to all the treatment and the equipment and the wiring, and I've also designed many custom devices that are still in use today, I think. I did some work for Paul Simon and Billy Gibbons and Mark O'Connor with their preamps and such. Started off, cut my teeth in the business. I was a roadie for Jeremy Spencer back in, when was this, 1974, 75. And onward and upward from there. I worked as a studio engineer in Europe and was involved in quite a few indie projects, and I remember my first 2-inch tape machine was in Laurentina, Italy, at Bobby Solo's studio, and he had an MCI J816. It wasn't a J816. It was a JH100, 16-track, 2-inch tape machine, and oh boy, those were the days. Anyway, all of that experience, working with the many mentors that I've had, and so many of the great producers and musicians, etc., give me the knowledge and the education to be able to design studios as I do today. I'd like to introduce you to my design philosophy and technique, and this is well, it's important to me to express to you about each room and each client, each situation is different. And that's why I say one size doesn't fit all. Music styles are different. The workflow and the way that one producer will work could be vastly different from the way another producer will work. So one size doesn't fit all. And still today, I see copy after copy of different designers' work, my work. Honestly, there are some designers out there that put out their work to show and expect people to copy it. But what's more important is, my question is, and should be yours, is to ask, well, what's behind that? What does that do, and why is that there? Instead of, well, so-and-so put that there, and that looks cool, I want to do that too, without any idea of why. And this is what I want to help you with, and want to teach you about and show you. Sort of leads to my next point. I truly think that most people don't do enough planning. And so when you're planning to build a recording studio or a home studio, plan is really the key word. And I like movies, so I'll give you a quote. Gandalf in The Hobbit said, "It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near him." And this is so true, because soundproofing could very well be that dragon that eats you. Because, I mean, a poor soundproofing job can ruin the future plans of a studio or a would-be professional or commercial endeavor. And if you, you could get a knock on the door at night and it'd be the cops. I say, you got to stop. You got to shut this down and give you a citation. You got to be in court. Forget it. Just do it right. I like to say, do it once, do it right. No worries. It'll save you so much money just doing it right one time. Done. This is not, soundproofing especially, and we're talking about soundproofing. It's not something that you can do as you go and look, oh, well, I add this and then I add that, and then, oh, well, I'll change this later because that didn't work. You can't do it by the seat of your pants, because one change to a certain part of the structure, or making an air gap bigger, or decoupling something, can change the whole layout of the studio. And you might not have room for that room or a hallway, and it just won't work anymore. So you have to plan it out. It's real important to plan, and especially if you're adding a room, for instance, to your home studio. You want to use this room for your control room, and then later on you want to expand and put a tracking room in that room, or this next. You have to plan it out to see how ergonomically and how acoustically that it would work. So let me introduce you to the way that I design a recording studio, and my design philosophy is basically this: balance. You want it to accurately reproduce the source. You have speakers firing towards you. You don't want to hear the console. You don't want to hear reflections off of anything. You just want to hear what's going on out in the tracking room, or what's going on in the sound stage of what you're mixing. If you're only doing mixing or mastering, you want to hear what's on tape or on the disc. If you have console reflection, floor reflection, ceiling, wall reflections that are causing comb filtering, you're not going to hear certain frequencies right. And although, and I keep saying this, it amazes me the talent of some of these producers and engineers that can work in these horrible rooms. I think they're horrible. I couldn't do it anyway, but it amazes me the talent of these people. But I think, and I've experienced this, is I take these talented people and put them in a good room, and it's unbelievable how quickly they can come up with a brilliant mix, and how quickly they can get the job done, and it translates to anything and everything. So if you have a good room, this is what I say, if you have a good sounding room and it's designed right, this is my job, to make it sound good, sound right, so that you can work fast, you can get your job done, and you can enjoy it while you're doing it. And that equates to being better at what you do, making more money, enjoying life, etc. So that's what this is all about: having a good room, having good treatment, etc. So basically, early beginning in the 60s even, the ideas presented by Don Davis and Chips Davis, and then later on by Peter D'Antonio, who did the RFZ design, and Tom Hidley, who began at the earliest times, I suppose, and not to mention the many other designers, have helped to shape the form of recording studios to this present day. And all of my peers, all the other designers that you will talk to or read, are on the same path. And what we do, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We take what all these other researchers and all these other scientists and all these people that have gone before us, and we build on that. So I've done my own personal reviews of the different design techniques, and I've come down to this, that of all the designs available, I'm more intrigued and impressed with the response and accuracy of the non-environment design that was pioneered by Tom Hidley. The Any room is quite unique because it offers you a complete and total focus on the recorded sound. What's what's on tape or what's on disc, what's going on in the tracking room. That's so important that you can hear, oh, what was that click? What is that little thing? It's really faint. And you come to find out that the drummer dropped his tuning key, popped off of one of the toms, and it hit the floor during the session. And you know, if you're making an audio file record, that won't do, because it'll be heard. It'll be heard. So, but at the same time, there have been many comments about the working in NE rooms that to the point that they're a little discomforting when you go into them, and you get used to them eventually, but and that they're even uninspiring to the creative type. I don't think, now I could be wrong, and you can post on here and tell me that you disagree, and that's great. That's great. I will take that into account. But they can be uninspiring to the creative type because it's just dead in the back. Okay? And like many musicians and producers and artists, I don't like to be in an anechoic chamber when I'm thinking or writing or trying to be creative. Besides, this non-environment is discomforting to the human animal. It is foreign and frightening, and therefore introduces stress. And this stress, in turn, leads to fatigue. So it'll a fully dead room can be fatiguing. Now, it gets worse if that room is not properly treated, and you have a mid-frequency and high-frequency deadness, but the low frequencies are still. That's going to mess you up. That's going to mess up your mix. They're not going to translate. Just not going to work, and that is due and caused by thin treatment, inadequate, especially back wall treatment and ceiling treatment. It's very important to have the proper trapping in a room. Now, I'll get into this in another video about the depth of trapping needed for certain room sizes, and we'll talk about that later. So anyway, like most human beings, I like to be comfortable. So I like to be in a place where I feel inspired, where I feel creative, where I can, I see things and hear sounds that are pleasing and exciting, and my surroundings are just interesting, and I get that creative juices flowing. You know, you understand? I'm sure you do. Today, so much work is done in the control room. You know, we'll do tracking and overdubs and vocals and keyboards, all kinds of stuff, and even corrections. Bass players will play in the control room, patched in direct, and maybe an amp in the other room, mic'd. So much work is done in the control room. So even though I say this, dead rooms do work fine for this purpose, but then you're limited to the choice of plug-ins or reverbs or whatever is available to add the life back into it, or put those sounds in an environment that you want to synthesize for the mix and for the song. As a producer, you want things to work together, you know, to create a landscape. So, but I'll tell you, this sort of falls on a topic, and I digress, but I'll mention a little here. For example, the in-the-box guitar modules, or these rack modules. You plug your guitar in and you just plug it direct into your mixer, and bam, you got a rock and roll sound already, or whatever you're looking for. And now they're great, and they can produce a huge variety of sounds just from a electric guitar input, and you don't have to have a great guitar to do it. It's all in the programming in the box. But I have a small problem with them. They all sound the same. I mean, it's okay if you want the guitar to sound just like everybody else's on your record, but I'm not going to listen to it. You know. Anyway, there's nothing quite as unique as a real room with good mics, properly positioned. I mean, set just so and you get the sound you're looking for. Oh yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. And it's not going to sound like the studio down the street because they don't have that room. They don't have your room, and they can't. Modeling it is so incredibly difficult if they try to do that. So just try it. I mean, say for instance, put an amp in a room and put your processed guitar, even though you're using a rack gear and you recorded it direct, run that signal into an amp or a speaker out in the room and put a mic on it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, back to the subject. Today's balanced control room needs to spec out just like Tom Hidley's non-environment, but with a twist. It's been documented by Olive and Toole, among others, that the detection threshold of a reflected sound, and they tested the human voice, this is like, for instance, you get a sound from the speakers and then you have a reflection coming back, okay? If that reflection is 16 decibels below the source sound and it's 10 to 20 milliseconds delayed, just under that you can't hear it. Again, if it goes to minus 20 dB at 25 milliseconds delayed, it's at that detection threshold. 21 dB at 30 milliseconds. So what I do is I design my control rooms so that with zero reflection from the source arrive any earlier than 20 milliseconds. And none of those reflections are returned at a level higher than minus 20 dB. So that's where I get my 20/20. 20 milliseconds minus 20 dB. So this involves crafting any kind of diffusion elements in the room, left, right, sides, ceiling, back wall, whatever, so that no reflection is returned in higher level than minus 20 decibels at the mix position from the source. Source to mix position, 0. Reflection comes back, minus 20. Okay, so minus 20 dB, 20 milliseconds delay. Maximum. Now that's the maximum return. So in order to get this return, I'll carefully craft any side reflectors, diffusers, overhead, at the back, anything and everything, so that no signal is returned in higher level than minus 20 dB and no quicker than 20 milliseconds from the source sound at the mix position. This is what's known as a Haas zone or a Haas kicker, where it terminates the initial signal delay. This is a term from the LEDE design criteria that specified a return energy to terminate that signal delay gap, but in the NE room does not have one. You don't need it. You really don't. That is for perception of space. But when you're listening to source, in my opinion, when you're listening to the source, you don't want to have a perception of any space other than what you're listening to. You know, you want accuracy. You want to be able to hear the tail of the reverb. You don't want to guess at it. You want to hear it. You want to know, okay, is that too long or too short? Is that right? Does that work? You know? And when you're trying to A/B and match, for instance, reverb tails of one instrument tracked in one space and another instrument tracked in another space, you go, ooh, these don't quite match. And this is especially helpful when you're doing a post-production and such, and you're blending tracks and doing Foley and such. Because I'll tell you something, when it gets to film or even music CD, it's going to get compressed. And you know what's going to happen to that reverb tail? It's going to stretch out longer. So it's good to be able to hear it. You know what's going on. You're not giving them a skewed track or something. Anyway, this I do for measured and perceived accuracy. So it's it'll not only measure accurate, but you'll perceive it as accurate. It'll make your job easy. It'll make you'll be able to work and get your job done and enjoy it. And hey, that equates to better mixes, better product, better life, better income. It all is together. It all works together, just like a studio. It's all part of a system. So anyway, in one of these balanced rooms, vocalists and acoustic instruments can comfortably and accurately be recorded. As I was saying, it really is a fact that if you love what you do, you're going to eventually be very good at it. And that's my goal, to really help you love what you do and enjoy being at work, at the console, mixing, producing, writing, whatever your job is in this field. So you can enjoy it so much that you look at your watch, oh my God, it's 10 hours I've been in here and I'm not even tired. Or your girlfriend or your wife calls you and says, hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you home? Oh, really? I didn't realize. Because you're having such a good time. You're really doing a good job and you're getting a lot done. And that's what I call success. What makes me